preserved my youth. Not only did it capture my goals, it told me the truth.
Conversate for a few, cause it a few.
I let them know we missing you. The love is unconditional.
Wave your hands across the land if we family.
We got a world premiere right here, now get lost.
So off we go, let the trumpets blow. And hold on, because the driver of the mission is a pro.
What's up, everybody? You are tuned into another episode of Conversate with Us. Remember, Conversate stands for communicate, converse, and relate. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Click that bell icon so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. Make sure you tell everybody about the show. Well, there's a lot going on in politics in the U.S. right now. The Republicans have absolutely lost their mind and have worked on doing a bunch of things to try to limit or just totally nullify the Black vote. So I'm going to bring in one of my favorite politicians from the state of Georgia to talk about this more in depth so we can educate our listeners. Shanita Wilkerson-Howell, please come on in.
Hello.
How are you? Do we need to drop Do we need to drop the Wilkerson, or is it just this Shanita Howell? What is it?
So my legal name is Shanita Howell.
Okay.
But I use Wilkerson for branding because that is my bloodline. That is also where my political nature comes from. I sit in a seat that was once held by my uncle, my dad's brother, and my family's just always been involved in politics and what's going on locally.
I understand. So tell people about you. Like you're involved in Georgia state politics. Tell them about your position, your role, and how that fits into the state politics.
Okay, so I'm an elected official on the local level. I sit on the Peach County Board of Commissioners. I'm a county commissioner for Post 2, which covers the city of Fort Valley and just outside of the city limits into the county. I'm also a Democrat, a very proud Democrat. I'm on the state committee of the Democratic Party of Georgia, where I represent Peach County Democratic Committee. Also am the co-chair of the candidate recruitment committee with DPG under the leadership of Vice Chair Scout Smith.
Okay. All right. So she's well versed into not only local politics, state politics, and an expert on the subject matter. So, one of the big things that's been going along right now is the Republicans, and I'm glad you made sure that you said that you were a Democrat. The Republicans have been working hard under the authority of Donald Trump, under the directive of Donald Trump, to change up the voting counties, the voting districts in multiple states. And maybe, which I call the I hate Black people states, like Texas, Louisiana, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. Now, some of the courts are fighting. I saw something where Alabama and South Carolina said, hey, listen, you can't do this. But explain to the listeners what exactly is going on with this racial gerrymandering. There's cracking, there's other methods of doing this. What exactly are they trying to do, and how would that impact Black people?
Well, I mean, you said it. They are trying to dilute Black representation. I won't even say they're trying to dilute the Black vote, but they're definitely trying to dilute our representation. I sit in the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia, where the Honorable Sanford Bishop is my congressman, and we're uniquely positioned where this is a predominantly Black district in rural Georgia. And, we're thinking that they're going to do some things to try to play with that. And it's probably going to put even more Republicans or people who won't typically vote Democrat in our district. I will say that they've done a really good job of not saying Black, and they have made it more about the political parties. But we all know what that means in the South. Black people are typically Democrats. So it does give the appearance, and it is them, messing with representation for Black people. Although they'll say it's representation for Democrats. But whether it's Black or Democrat, I wouldn't even be in favor of us doing this. I wouldn't be in favor of the Democratic Party doing this unless it's a retaliation. Now, kudos to California for what they did. Absolute kudos for Gavin Newsom and the Cali crew. I'm okay with it in retaliation, but just on its face, no, I'm not with that. And unfortunately, I feel like we've been placed in a situation where states like California do have to kind of do something to punch back.
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't want to say it bothers me, but it does annoy me. So I guess I will say bother. It bothers me that a lot of times I find that Democrats are in the reactive position instead of the proactive position when it comes to these things. We know how these people are. We know how they are. They have shown us over and over who they are. We know who their leader is. A lot of people call him Cheeto Satan. We know how he is. It is satanic what he's doing. And I do think that knowing how they are and how they move, we should be in a proactive position where we're on the offense instead of the defense all the time.
You know, there's a couple of things when it comes to that. I read a book several years ago, and it's called Dark Money. And
Mhm.
it goes back to when the Supreme Court made the decision. I guess it was I think it was Citizens United, when they allowed private money to be able to be uncapped and how they can contribute to elections. And it talked about how the Koch brothers, KOCH,
Mhm.
how they implemented a plan when President Barack Obama was elected, that they said, listen, no, we have to make sure that we do something to not only fix this, but to make sure that it can never happen again. So they put forth a strategy to go after the different state houses, to go after the governor's mansions, because they knew that if we control the state houses, if we control the governor's mansion, then we could do exactly what we're doing right now. So they have been very strategic and systematic in what they're doing. And for me, the problem that I have with the Democrats, and there's a couple, but I'm still going to vote Democrat because
That's right.
I know who has my interest in mind, right? And it's not the
Right.
Republicans. The problem that
Right.
you have is that too many in the party have that we'll go high when they go low mentality. When you see Gavin Newsom, Mr. I can't read either, so I'm just like you black folks. Still, he's willing to go there with them, and we need more people in
Mhm.
the Democratic Party to do that, because they don't mind being ruthless when they have power. And in order for us to combat that, in my personal opinion, I think that we need to be just as ruthless in
Yes.
combating that. Now, I know a lot of people, like on my other show, Man Listen, they're like, well, listen, I'm not going to be like them. To me, that's a losing mentality. We're going to continue to lose because they're
Mhm.
unified even throughout the craziness. They know Trump is crazy, but their
Absolutely.
their ability to stay focused on the overall goal, which is preserving white supremacy. I will say it.
Yes.
I'll say it.
Mhm.
White supremacy.
No, that's what it
They
is.
can look. They can pinch their nose and look past some of the things that the Republicans do that they don't necessarily like or align with their morals.
I mean, I agree. Michelle Obama is one of my sheroes. I love her. Love you, girl. Love you, Michelle. But I think that that whole mentality of when they go high, we go low, it does not serve us well.
Oh, when they go
And
low,
as
we
much,
go high. When they
yeah,
go
yeah,
low, we go
yeah.
high.
Thank you.
Yeah,
When they go low, we go high. Thank you. See,
yeah.
it's a foreign concept to me, so I mess
Right.
it up.
Either way, it's some dumb
But
shit. She's a very intelligent woman, but that's some dumb shit to
very. But
say.
yeah, that's not my ministry. When they go low, I go under hell. You hear me? Under hell is where I go. And I don't understand why we would even have that mentality, knowing how these people have done. And someone will probably be upset with me saying these people. But when I say that, I'm talking about the Republicans. Knowing how they move, knowing all the things that they've done, I actually just saw something from Burt Jones where he was showing a video of Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is our Democratic governor nominee, where she was saying that she wants to leave things like allowing boys to play in girls' sports to the athletic associations. And I agree with that. That is their decision. I agree. But you have all of these Republicans in his comments who are just tearing this woman down. And my comment is, I'm just laughing at the hypocrisy of Republicans being upset at this woman taking government out of a situation. Are they not the party of small government? and limiting government overreach. They're just a bunch of hypocrites. They
They
are a bunch of power hungry hypocrites.
That's it. They are the party of hypocrisy.
Yes.
When they say they are pro-life, no. You are
Mm-mm.
pro-birth because you don't want these white girls terminating these babies because you
Mm-hmm.
know that eventually you're going to be outnumbered. But
That's right.
that child is born, you don't want to do anything for that child. You don't want it to be educated. You don't want it to have food.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have access to a decent life in this country. So stop saying that you are pro-life because you're not. And that's exactly what they are.
Absolutely.
They are the hypocrites. So let's talk about your state, Georgia.
Okay, let's talk about Georgia.
So
Georgia's on everybody's mind.
so Kemp, the governor of Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Kemp, they put into law, and I don't have the specific details, but I know that they focus on specifically the 5 or 6 counties that constitute the Atlanta metro area, where they made
Yes.
ballot nonpartisan. And many
Mm-hmm.
people say in an effort to confuse the voters. And they were really systematic to say that it's only for certain positions that would be put on the ballot that would be nonpartisan. Now, how they can say this is only applies to Atlanta, because I tell people all the time, Atlanta's not Georgia.
It is not at all.
Atlanta might be in Georgia, but it is
Mm-hmm.
not Georgia. When you step outside of
Right.
Atlanta, you realize what Georgia really is, where
That's
you
right. You're running the
live.
red dirt and red politics.
Peach County
Absolutely.
for sure.
Mhm.
So talk about what they did in Atlanta and why that impacts Black people so negatively.
So I have heard people talk about it being a way to confuse voters. I don't think they're trying to confuse voters. I think they're trying to shroud who they are so that they can get into spaces that they typically would not be able to get into. They're trying to Republicans so that Republicans can get back on city councils in the metro area, get back on boards of commissions, boards of education, become sheriff again. In all of those metro counties, you have Black people who are Democrats who are the top law person. And I say law person because some of those people are actually women. Like DeKalb County has a female sheriff.
Mm.
So a Black female sheriff. So I feel like they're trying to, I don't want to say take over Metro Atlanta, but what they're trying to do is control Metro Atlanta again.
Mhm.
Um, Atlanta and the metro area has been Black and Democratic for a very long time, and they just want control again. That is simple as that. There's no other reason because whatever their reasoning would be, or the reasoning they say they have for it, why wouldn't it apply to all 159 counties in Georgia?
Well, I talked about this with a few people that I know, and
Hmm.
it's hard to dispute this, but I think when it comes to Black America, Atlanta is the most important city when you talk about Black politics, Black business. I don't know if there's any other city when it comes to just Black people and the concentration of political and economic power. I don't know if there's another city in the US that really can top Atlanta. So if they can infiltrate it in the way that you just talked about, and they can start to
Hmm.
siphon off or weaken that power, then look what it does to us as a community. Because
Right.
Atlanta had a strong history. A lot of my frat brothers had put in policies where they was like, no, if you're going to be a contractor, if you're going to do
Yes,
this, if you're
Maynard
going to do this,
Jackson.
Maynard Jackson,
Hmm.
Andrew Young, they said no. If you're
Yes.
going to have a business where you put out the contractor, you must entertain Black business, right? A certain percentage
Hmm.
has to be Black business, and they want to be able to weaken that.
Right. And there's a lot of Black political power. There's a lot of Black business there. You know, um, I remember talking to a young man at Fort Valley State, and he was saying how different things were for him coming to Fort Valley after growing up in Atlanta. He said, I'm so used to everything being Black. He was like, I went to the courthouse and I see all these white. It's like, well, that's just how it is around here. Doesn't mean they won't help you because they will help you. He was like, yeah, I know, it's just odd though. And I get
He
that.
he doesn't know. He doesn't know. I remember when
Yeah.
they were having the uprising in Atlanta, and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom, she brought out like T.I. and it was T.I. and I
Hmm.
think Killer Mike. And
Yes.
T.I. said some silly stuff in my opinion. He was like, Atlanta is Wakanda. We got to protect it, right? In a sense, he
Yeah.
was right because
Mhm.
Atlanta is almost fictitious because when you go to other places, like me, I grew up in Kansas. For us,
Mhm.
going somewhere and seeing a black person in power, or even seeing a black person in the building, that was like, oh shit, they got black people there. Like, so
Mhm.
if you grow up in like Philadelphia, you grow up in like New York or somewhere where there's a lot more diversity, then it is something that is strange. So I can imagine conversely, when you go and you see how it really is, the reality is for a lot of other people,
Mhm.
it probably is a culture shock because a lot of those positions, like county clerk position, all these different things that make your life, your day-to-day life be what it is, if it's not run by a person that really has your interest in mind, your life could be totally different. And that goes back to what you're
Right.
saying in terms of not really going after the vote, but going after black representation.
Yes, absolutely. And we're talking about how you feel when how you used to feel when you see a black person in position. And this young man, being shot because he's seeing a white person in position. I feel like there's that same sentiment going on with the issuing of that law. Because imagine how these people who've been in power for centuries, since the formation of this country legally,
Mhm.
because it was here before, there were people here. But just the legal formation according to the laws of the land that they created.
Right?
They've always been in power, they've always been in control. So now they're in Atlanta, they're in Henry County, and they're like, they want something done. They got to go and see Madam Chairwoman, who's a black woman. Every metro Atlanta county right now has a chairperson who is a black woman. That has never happened before until very recently. So, they probably have that same type culture shock. The only difference is they've shown that they have the power to try to change that. But I honestly, even if now there are some groups right now who are fighting that, who gotta fight it through the courts, but I don't think that it would change anything. I really don't.
You don't think that fighting it would change anything, or do you think the new
I don't
law?
think the law would, because we would have, because think about it. The law is saying what can be said on the ballot. It's not saying what the people can say. It's not saying what the party can say. We can absolutely tell people, hey, this is a Republican. This is a Democrat.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping us from saying that. We have people all the time who party switch to run for office when when the um, party that's in the majority is not their party. Right there in Rockdale County, there was Oz Nesbitt, who was a black male Democrat, who was the chairman of the board of commissioners there. He was unseated by a white woman who is a Republican who claims to be a Democrat and ran on a Democratic ticket and won. So I don't think that people knew she was a Republican until too late. Some people knew, but everybody didn't know. But knowing that that type of thing can happen, all we have to do is shout it from the rooftops.
Well, I think
All we
that
have to do is get the word out.
yeah, I think that speaks to we talked about it on my other show, man,
Voter education
voter
and stuff.
education and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that the voting community, the voters are informed because that's really
Right.
what they want, right? They don't want informed voters.
That's
They
right.
want to have this democratic, authoritarian government that only really
Mm-hmm.
works when people aren't informed. When you look at
Right.
MAGA, and that's who I really had a problem with. Like
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
you can
Republicans.
be
I have a
Republican.
problem with MAGA.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if you MAGA, F off 100%. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna curse.
Family members who've been Republican,
Because I got the commissioner.
Libertarian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna cuss because I got the commissioner on here. I will correct myself. But if you MAGA, I don't want nothing to do with you. Now I know people that voted for Trump the first time, black people,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave them the side eye, but I slightly understood because they were a lot. But if you voted for him the second time, nah, I don't have nothing to do with you. And the other
I
people
agree.
too. Not only do I not fool with MAGA, I don't fool with people who said my vote doesn't matter and who didn't get out to vote. You were just as
Yes.
complicit as those MAGA folks. So
Mm-hmm.
I voted in our Democratic primary runoff yesterday. I live in Dallas, and my precinct is in what they call the neighborhood. It's a
Yeah.
real famous bar district with gay bars there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that live there happen to be LGBTQ, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I pulled up, there's this young man there. He gave me a handbill. He said, "Hey, here are all the candidates that are
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ friendly." And it's that type of education that needs to be done. And I don't understand how the Democratic leadership isn't on that. How come our leaders aren't able to say, okay, listen, we got to let people know what is what? What do you think that we could do from your perspective?
Okay, so here's the thing. Democratic leadership doesn't need to be the one saying that. Because if it's a primary, they have to stay neutral. And then once we choose a nominee, it's only one. So of course they're backing that one. You get what I'm saying? So they can't necessarily say, hey, this is the gay friendly candidate or the black friendly candidate. That is where our um, partner organizations come in. They should be able to say those things. Or that's where community leaders and activists come in. They should be able to say those things. But they need to make sure that they're well informed on who's on the ballot. A website does not tell you who that person is. Go find out, do some digging, have some conversations. I actually just put up a Facebook post yesterday because I was in a dilemma. I don't, well, at the time, I did not know who to support for lieutenant governor of Georgia
Mhm.
because the person I supported is not in the runoff. So I did a simple post like, hey, who you got? This one or that one? And when I tell you so much information started coming in about not only personalities, work ethic, work habits, and a lot of the information that came were firsthand accounts. So if you just ask about people, ask the people who know. Um, I try to do a lot in my community as far as letting my constituents, my family, and friends know the people on the ballot because I am fortunate to be in a situation where I get to know a lot of these people on a very personal basis. And, the average person doesn't get to do that. When I
Yeah.
made this Facebook post within like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, I was actually on the phone with one of the lieutenant gubernatorial candidates.
Right.
And, I invited him to come on my post and he came on, and I realized it's not everybody's experience. So because it's my experience, if you know me, talk to me. If that's somebody else's experience, talk to them. Talk to the people who know these people. Don't just go, oh, I'm black, she's black. I'm a woman, she's a woman. So let me vote for her. Or I'm gay, he's gay. Let me vote for him. Get to know these candidates because just because you share an identity doesn't always mean that you share the same values or that you share the same work ethic or
And
that you share the same priorities. Get to know these people because I do think that sometimes identity politics can be the death of us.
what do you mean by that?
Well, because would you say that now, okay, I want to say this. Before I'm anything else in the world, I am black. And that is simply because I have a black mama and a black daddy. So when they decided to be very kind to each other one night and create me,
Hmm.
the only thing guaranteed about my identity is that I would be black.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's who I am first. That's the only guaranteed portion of me, that came out of this situation. So, and I'm very proud to be black. I don't hide it. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to advocate for it. None of that stuff. But I've got to look beyond black when it comes to how I'm voting or what I'm suggesting. Clarence Thomas is black. Is he somebody I would support?
Tim Scott.
No.
Tim Scott is black.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So just because someone has your same race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or whatever, doesn't mean that that's who you vote for. I would never vote for Candace Owens.
Right. Yeah.
So, we got to get past that.
And it's, we got a mayor here in Dallas, Eric Johnson.
Hmm.
4 months after being elected as a Democrat, he said he was switching to the Republican Party.
Hmm.
You see how they do? You see how they do?
Yeah,
And it's the old saying, all skin folk ain't kin folk.
that's right.
And, you're right. It may not be incumbent on the actual candidates. But I think one of the things that the Republicans and MAGA do well is that they know how to come up with a message, make it simple and plain, and to be able to get their voting bloc to go out and vote. Now, it's easy for them
Mhm.
because, again, they have one main issue that will always be an issue for them: white supremacy. Now, I think the other thing too is that Democrats operate more like a coalition,
Yes, the
whereas
Big Tent.
Republicans are a
Hmm.
united front. So you
Hmm.
got, hey, listen, well, what are you going to do for the Black community? What are you going to do for the Hispanics? What are you going to do for the LGBTQ, right? And even in the LGBTQ, a matter of fact, the young man that I talked to yesterday, he said LGBTQ because some of them don't even want to associate with the trans community. So there's all
Yeah,
this sometimes infighting when instead of saying, hey, listen, we need to just be united and to be able to root these people out that want to have control and have this white Christian national government where people like us don't matter.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that you talked about speaking to a young man that came from Atlanta that had culture
Hmm.
shock when he got to your area. One of the
Hmm.
things that I think we really need to do is to get these young people together. And I'm very, very concerned about it because a lot of them, including my children, I got young adults, they receive their information from TikTok.
Yes.
Because if it's on TikTok and somebody puts some eerie music behind it, right, then it must be true,
Hmm.
right? But there's no
Yeah.
fact-based research. There's nothing going along. And one of the things that burned me up was one of the young men in my life said, Republican, Democrat, they're both the same. They're all politicians. None of them are no good. And
Right.
this attack on our right to elect officials that represent us came about. I made sure and I messaged him. I said, are they still the same? Because he
That's
was like,
right.
Kamala and Trump, they're the same. No, they are not. And it's such an unintelligent thing to say. So in your
It
opinion,
is.
how do we reach them without being, because they're a different generation. Like
They are.
we came from those people, we came from people who realized that we all we got.
Hmm.
We came from people that fought for our rights. And
Yeah.
they are more of an entitled generation, but we need them. So, in your opinion, how do we reach out to them to get them motivated to vote?
First of all, we have to listen to them. We have to listen to them. And when I say listen, we need to listen for understanding and not listen to correct because they are also they're not big on correction.
At
You're
all.
gonna do nothing. Yeah, you're gonna do nothing but push them away. So we have to listen to them and see what things are important to them. Craft messages around some of the things that are important to them. And like right now, they're concerned about things like they can't afford a house. You have people in their 30s who are like, by the time my parents were this age, they've been paying for their house for 5 years, and I can't even save up for the 10% down or the 3% down. So we've got to listen to them about the things that are important to them and also come up with policies and craft messages around the things that are important to them. Also give them a seat at the table. I'm not saying they all have to be things like mayors or anything, but there are a lot of civic boards that could use their input. Put those young folks on the rec board. Put one of them on planning and zoning. Let them understand, how decisions are made. Let them understand land use. Because, that same crowd could be like, you know what? I'm mad because I tried to open a vape shop and they wouldn't let me open a vape shop. Yeah, you're right next on one side of you is a preschool, and the other side of you is a church. Of course, they're not going to let you do it. But if you understand land use, you'll know that you can't open this up. So put them in position to learn things, be exposed to government and how things work.
You're right, because I think back to when I first graduated from college, and I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. Don't let the red mess you up. This is for the show. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and I remember, trying to transition from being involved on the college level in my chapter to the graduate level, right, to the alumni level.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I remember how condescending some of the older brothers were, and like, yeah, you young brothers, y'all just come and help be the muscle and lift the chairs, set up for the events. We need y'all to show up and do this, but you don't really have any input on the direction of what we do. So then what happened?
Mm-hmm.
We just checked out. A lot of them
Right.
checked out. Well, if I don't have any say so and I'm just there to be there, then why would I even show up to, where I'm not respected or even valued? And I think you're right. We are seeing that a lot with these young people. We're seeing it a lot with Black men. And
Mm-hmm. Especially in Georgia.
while I don't agree with those Black men, I think that it's a problem for the Democratic Party, and they have to find a way to resolve it. And it's not going to be by hiring white pollsters. They need to get people like you and me, or even younger people than us, to be able to go
Mm-hmm.
out and relate, get the answers that we need, and to frame the message in a way that's relatable and that's going to be efficient to turn this thing around.
I would go a step further with the black men problem. I don't think that the Democratic Party has a problem with black men. I think that we have a heterosexual black man problem. I think there's plenty of space, plenty of opportunity, plenty of welcoming open arms for black men who identify as the LGBT community. But I think that it's I haven't seen it be very welcoming to heterosexual black men. I
Why do you
don't
think
know
that is?
why. I just said I don't know why. I do not know why. But I watch and I hear their frustration. I see their frustration. And I've talked to some of them because I'm a boy mom. So it's certain things I look for and I pay attention to because I'm very sensitive about, well, would my sons be welcome here? Would my sons thrive here? And it's not just a party I look at that way. I look at a lot of things. And I want this to be a world where everybody is welcome. Everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has an opportunity to thrive. And I just have not seen heterosexual black men be able to make much headway in our party.
Hmm. Well, I think that that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. So it goes
It
to
does.
the bigger question that I have for you. In your opinion, what strategy does the Democratic Party need to put into place if it were up to you, if you were driving the bus? What would you put into place? Because I saw some things where like Cory Booker was saying like, the first thing we do when we take back over the House and the Senate is we're going to impeach Donald Trump. And man, that don't move the needle for people.
That man is dang near 80 years old.
It don't move the
Leave
needle.
him alone. Well, no, he's over 80 and how old is Donald Trump?
Listen,
He's about 80. He's about 80.
he old as fucking old as dirt. His third
Wait, no, let's put the
third
real
trip
truth
to
out there.
Walter Weed and ankles
Yeah,
all swollen and everything. Like, no, but the point is, like, they don't care. What people care about is, man, groceries is high. Like you
that's
said,
right.
can't afford. Even if I wanted to buy a house, hell, I can't afford some of these apartments out here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if I wanted to start a family, I talk to a lot of young people. It's like, I ain't having no kids. I barely feeding myself.
Yeah,
How I'm gonna have a child? And so you got a party that's saying affordability is a hoax, right? Like there's so
right.
many things that can be focused on to motivate voters. Impeaching Donald Trump is not one of them.
Not and honestly, I think voters are kind of over the we hate Trump thing. Because I mean, we do hate Trump, but what is hating Trump gonna get us really?
Passion.
Yeah, you can't take your hate for Trump to the grocery store and buy groceries. You can't take it to the gas station and fill up your car. It's not doing anything. We need to focus on real, sustainable affordability for people. We need to focus on doing some things that are going to improve the quality of people's lives. Donald Trump being dead or alive does not affect me. Donald Trump being impeached or not does not affect me on a day to day basis. Do I think he belongs in jail? Absolutely. But I don't want you to use your time and resources on that when you could be fixing my life.
Right. Right.
And I think that the Democratic Party needs to get back to the kitchen table issues where we talk about things like affordability, healthcare, quality education. Those things are universal.
Right.
Those things matter to Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party members. They matter to everybody. So why are we not talking about those things that matter to everybody instead of focusing so much on things like identity politics?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think with this midterm election coming up, it's very critical. It seems like every election now is critical, right? But
Mm,
this
It
one,
gets more and more critical.
this one coming up. I mean, because like folks try to tell people, listen, you cannot let him into office, or
That's right.
he's going to be able to put these crazy folks on the Supreme Court. And we see
Mhm.
how that played out for us. We see that he has the House, he has the Senate, and he has the courts.
But you know what? That takes me back to something we talked about earlier about Democrats being proactive. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very selfish and evil for not resigning instead of just dying. As soon as President Obama was elected, she should have resigned. That should start becoming the norm. When we see that we have a Democratic president come into office, a a Democratic House and Senate, or even one that is agreeable, because it doesn't necessarily have to be all Democrats, but just a sensible House and Senate. You know, Supreme Court justices need to go ahead and retire
Well,
for the good of the country.
first of all, it should be an age limit for all politicians. I know you're an elected official, but there should be an age
I don't
limit.
believe that.
I do.
So I don't believe.
I-
Let me tell you why. I'm gonna
especially
tell you
for
why.
either an age limit or a term limit for the Supreme Court.
I believe in a term limit for the Supreme Court, but I don't believe in age limits because it's nothing wrong with age. What's wrong is when someone doesn't have the mental acuity to do the job. So as long as they have the mental acuity, they need to be allowed to do the job. If they need to go home, let the voters send them home. I really think that putting term limits on people's now, I believe in term limits for the Supreme Court because they are appointed. They're not elected. But for elected individuals, I don't believe in term limits. I believe when the people are tired of them, let the people send them home.
I just feel like when it comes to people who are in their 80s making policy decisions that are going to impact us for years and years to come, and they may or may not be in touch with all of the electorate that they represent. I think that there's an issue with that. I don't think that there should be any elected official that's traveling with their own nurse to get around. I just don't. I don't believe so. If I don't want Nana in her 80s driving, why do I want her making decisions that are going to impact my grandchildren and her great grandchildren? I mean,
So
I hear
let
what
me
you're
ask you
saying.
this. So is it fair to Nana that somebody 25 and 35-year-old makes decisions about people who are aging? One thing about Nana, she's been 25 and she's been 35. But that 25 and 35-year-old, they've never been Nana. They've never been 80. So I don't think that we should discount the wisdom that comes with age. I think we should focus purely on the mental acuity. If someone doesn't have that, the mental capacity to do the job, they absolutely send them home. But that's something that can also come at a young age.
I hear what you're saying, but I think like with Jim Clyburn, right?
Hmm.
He's in his 80s. and he was supposed to step
Mhm.
aside to let his daughter run to take that seat. But he said, "Nah, I'm gonna run again." Now, what happens if we all gonna pass? Well, what if he passes soon and then I don't know South Carolina state laws, but the governor is able to put somebody into his seat, and that tips the battle, tips the balance back to the Republicans, or in a way that's negative that impacts us. That type of stuff happens. So that's why I feel like
So
if you're not physically, if you're at a certain age, right? And maybe there should be some sort
mhm.
of acuity test or some sort of test. I don't know. But I think if you talk to most people, they'd probably be in favor of age limits for politicians.
They would, and you know what? That's very sad to me, especially as a Democrat. I supported Michael Thurman in this race. Michael Thurman is 73 years old. Michael Thurman also has the best record of anybody who was there in that race. He has the reputation and the track record of fixing every single office he's been in. He also was the only person on the entire ballot who has been elected statewide as a Democrat. His all of he still has all of his mental faculties. He can probably outrun me and you. He's in very good shape mentally and physically. But I had people saying things to me like, "Oh, but he's old. He needs to go home." Listen, we're Democrats. We jump down everybody's throat about every single ism there is. But we are typically the party that are first in line to be ageist and show ageism.
Mm.
And that bothers me. That bothers me because if you have someone who's mentally equipped, who can do this job and do it well, why are we telling them that they have to go home simply because of their age?
I hear you. I just think maybe there's a different way for them if they really are about the people
Hmm.
and making sure that they leave where they live a better place. Just because they're not in an elected position doesn't mean that they still can't have influence. Uh, Representative Clyburn could still use his connections and his authority to be able to help his daughter and his constituents. Maybe
Well,
not.
his daughter has another problem. His daughter has another problem with walking into her daddy's seat.
What's
And
that?
it's called well, two problems actually. One is voters because that's not for her or her daddy to decide who gets there. The
Mhm.
second is Bakari Sellers because he's going to run from that for that seat, from my understanding, and he is favored to win that seat
Is that be,
because
is he running because he wants change? They're trying to primary to Clyburns or because
no,
of
what I'm saying
redistricting?
is it is
No, I'm asking for
rumored.
clarity. Is he running to say, "Hey, listen, we need change," or is it because of the redistricting? Is that why he's running?
So first of all, we don't know that he's running, but it is rumored that if Clyburn doesn't run, that he'll run for that seat. He's not going to run against Clyburn, but he's running because he's brilliant and he can do the job.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Um, but yeah, we don't have. We're not a monarchy, so all of this walking my son and walking my daughter into the seat. We got to move away. We got to move away from even thinking that's a thing.
I agree. I agree. So, all right.
Hmm.
Before we wrap up the show,
Okay.
what words of encouragement or enlightenment do you want to give to our viewers? Because remember, we got people from all over the country that watch this. We have some primary elections still being decided, and we have midterms coming up. What do you want voters to know and to take from this podcast to be encouraged and to get out and to vote?
Vote as if your life depends on it because it actually does. Um, we're living in a time right now where people who are in leadership are more concerned with profits than they are with people. You have to vote for the life that you want your family to have. You have to vote for the future that you want your children to have. If you are content with Project 2025, then by all means, press that red MAGA button.
Mm,
But if you want a quality of life for your family in the present, you want an actual future to leave to your children and grandchildren, then by all means, take the blue button and push it. Because we're just living in a time where we're no longer safe. Democracy isn't safe. This republic is not safe. You are not safe as a person.
Mm.
Because I'm going to say this too. You know, we see them building all of these detention centers for ICE. Those detention centers are way too big for immigrants, if you ask me, especially if the idea is to deport them.
Listen,
You know,
that's
and
why
I'll just leave that right there.
that's why I have you on the show, because you are a powerful sister, someone that we
Thank you.
need to listen to. And you are absolutely right. And I know, listen, I know it's not the cool thing to shout this brother out anymore, but not everybody's all bad, not everybody's all good.
That's right.
But the great Negro poet Sean Puffy Combs said it best: vote or die. Puff had a vote or die. And we got to give Puff his credit on that. Vote or die. And that's
Yeah.
really what it is right now. Because I tell you what,
Well,
I
hey,
ain't going to no detention center. Listen, you got, yeah. I came from that bloodline. We're gonna jump off the boat before we get,
that's right.
we're gonna fight or die, one or the other. So, and black people, we got
Mhm.
goddamn fight. So
Right.
anyway, let me stop because I just started cussing again with the elected officials.
Hey, let's listen to Puffy then. Vote or die. Gonna slide that baby all on and slide right on to the polls.
Go ahead and slide on down to the polls and
Slide to the
vote.
polls.
Slide
That's
to the polls
right.
and vote, pause. But anyway, so Commissioner Shanita Howell, thank you for coming on. Shanita Wilkerson.
Thank you for thank you for having me. That's right. Wilkerson. Shout out to my daddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you always stepping up when I asked you to come on the show. I think people are really going to take something from this. And probably as we
I
get
hope
close to
so.
midterms, when we get closer to midterms, we'll have you back on. Maybe have some other people on as well too, so we can talk about some things. Because listen, like we said, we need to educate folks,
We
and
do.
you
We
know,
do.
shows like this are going to be able to get people inspired and enlightened to do with the right thing. So make sure y'all go to our YouTube. Conversate with us. And for you educated Negroes, I say it every show. Conversate stands for communicate, converse, and relate. And that's what we do. So make sure you click that bell icon, be notified of upcoming episodes, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.